Everyone, welcome to today's session, and thank you for taking time to join us, where we're going to highlight the benefits of Oracle Maintenance Cloud. I'll take care of a few housekeeping items while we're waiting for everybody else to join the call. I'm Camille Music, Director of Marketing here at Infovity, and today's presenter is Val Avery, and Val is the Senior Director of Solutions Consulting. He has over 27 years of experience with Oracle Solutions and was one of the first industry consultants and subject matter experts for finance and maintenance, supply chain, HCM, you name it. Our customers benefit from Val's vast knowledge on process design, solutioning, and process improvements in a variety of industries, which is invaluable when making the transition to cloud. So you're in good hands today. Before we get started, if you have any questions during the presentation, submit them in the Zoom Q&A panel, and we will address them anonymously at the end. I also want to remind you that we will email the webinar recording to each of you. In that email, we're going to provide you with a survey to share your feedback on this presentation and to let us know other topics that would be beneficial for you, especially over the next 1 to 3 months. And live attendees are receiving a $10 Amazon gift card. But if you fill out the survey we're sending, we'll also send another little special thank you in the mail. Make sure to send your current mailing address. Follow us on LinkedIn to learn more about upcoming webinars. We have one coming up on how to create accurate and timely budgets to improve manufacturing and procurement processes and enable companies to achieve top-line revenue and profit growth. And also on LinkedIn, we share a lot of great tips on increasing productivity and maximizing your current Oracle investments, industry best practices, and a lot more. So make sure and go ahead and follow us right now. And with that, I'll hand it off to Val.
Thank you, Camille. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Today, we're going to do an overview of Oracle Smart Maintenance with Oracle Maintenance Cloud, touch on IoT and AI apps. My name is Val Avery, as Camille mentioned. I won't go through the whole list here. Been doing this a while. So we look at today's business challenges for asset-intensive operations or businesses. The one thing that I constantly see in working with clients is they have very inaccurate and outdated data on assets and their availability. There's no real single pane of glass, as we call it, to view asset data, where the location is, the performance, maintenance incidents, predictions, and too often this is caught too late to avoid downtime. The classic maintenance has been when something breaks, we do a work order, but then it's really too late. We need to be a little more predictive with that. And if you're using multiple systems, there's inconsistent asset information across systems. And all of these factors really contributed to increased maintenance costs. So we want to look at how we can reduce the overall maintenance costs. So when we look at Oracle Maintenance Cloud, is we maintain enterprise assets with an intelligent integrated solution. And you've got good efficient strategies for asset management and operation. Predict and respond to assets in the smart assets world, where you have assets more and more are becoming internet enabled and becoming more smart assets instead of just lumps of steel or whatever. And the Oracle Maintenance has been written and optimized for the cloud. It's not a rebranding of a legacy on-premise application. This allows much more flexibility in how we address maintenance issues, and this is part of an integrated solution, a supply chain management solution you know, from procurement to planning to costing, inventory to manufacturing, all supported by, you know, the cloud platform of social, mobile KPIs and dashboards. We'll touch on that, and integrations. So we look at the vision. There's really kind of 4 steps going up this the crawl, walk, run kind of paradigm. Um, Most people live in the reactive maintenance world. You know, when something breaks, we'll fix it. You know, this is the oldest approach from time immemorial, um, but tends to create a lot of downtime, higher maintenance costs because things are being expedited. Then the next level up is preventive maintenance, where more and more people are moving to more planned maintenance. We'll touch on that a little bit later. It can be time-based from a calendar standpoint. You do it every week, every month, every quarter, um, or it can be meter-based, based on, you know, X number of punches or X number of activities. Um, and the challenge with this is to develop the rules or the parameters of your preventive maintenance program so it's not wasteful, so we're not over or under servicing. And that's one thing that the analytics will help with the trend to help you fine tune that. Then we move up to the next level of predictive maintenance, where we're really focusing on the equipment condition rather than time intervals. And we want to try and predict maintenance before the equipment actually fails to you know, further fine tune the maintenance requirements. And then further out in the future, people will look at prescriptive maintenance to use more AI, you know, artificial intelligence, look at trends and try to identify problems before they occur. But, you know, we need to do the crawl, walk, run approach before that. So maintenance cloud, at its core, really is the maintain to optimize. So we start with, you know, work areas, work centers, resources, assets, work definition and planning, manage work orders, update complete work orders, you know, standard execution activity, costing, and then analyze performance. And this all sits on top of you know, inventory and cost and procurement and everything else. And we'll walk through this flow in a minute. But the key thing here is it's a unified platform. So you define assets, any of the reference information, the meters, the parts list, what parts are used in the asset, and any history, maintenance programs, you know, what type of preventive maintenance programs you have on the assets, and then the work management, work definition, what are the operations or the activities that are necessary to do a maintenance, the resource requirements, the dispatch lists, and so forth. We'll go through that, but it's really on one unified platform with procurement. You can do things like in a work order, create a requisition to purchase parts that are needed for that specific work order, you know, so they're tied to that work order. You know, inventory, issue parts out of a spares or parts inventory, separate from your operational inventory if you wish. And then cost management, configurable cost methods and rules. How do you want to cost activity, very flexible accounting that feeds to a general ledger system. Okay, another thing that is a little unique with the cloud maintenance is you can also do project specific maintenance where if you have requirements to do maintenance within a track to a project, this comes into play in certain industries that we've seen, like in utilities, for example. They have large capital uh, items that from regulatory reporting, they need to track the maintenance to that particular project. So you can do this with work orders to a particular project if that's something that's needed in your industry. Okay. So we'll step through this flow of defining an asset and the work definition and so forth, the execution, um, see the status and take care of things and show you the cost. Okay. So I'm going to go through some demo flows here. I've done this with screenshots because I'm never sure that in today's world the internet is going to be that stable. So first we'll talk about asset management, then work execution. So these are the 5 steps that we'll go through of creating an asset, adding parts, create the work definition, and do a work order, and then we'll move into the execution area. So first, you have your landing page, or that has various KPIs. These are tailorable. You can use some of them that are delivered, or hide them or ignore them. There are other ones that can be added, and you see over here on the upper right is a task list that tells you what things that you can do off that landing page. So we're going to go into manage assets. So when you create an asset, you can define things like its description, serial number, location type, where it is, any attachments. You can have attachments of any drawings or specification sheets or anything like that that you want to have with the asset. So you simply you can create a new asset from scratch, or you can copy from another asset. So if you're adding another piece of equipment, it's identical or similar to one you have already, you could very quickly create that from a copy. It simplifies the setup activity. So when you edit the asset, you specify what your default work order types and subtypes are, what the work center it's in. Do you allow work orders on the asset? Is it a maintenance asset? For our purposes, they would be all maintenance assets. And then you can attach a parts list to the asset. What parts are involved with this asset that you may have to replace. You can copy this again from other assets, or you can enter it from scratch. So you can, in this particular one, it's just a power module. We're copying as spark plugs, keeping it simple. So once you have the asset defined, you know what it is that you may be doing maintenance on, then we want to define work definitions. This is the type of work that can be done on an asset. So when we look at a work definition, we can have different work definitions even for the same asset, because there may be different types of work that's done on an asset, particularly larger ones. So this is a pretty simple one. We're doing an oil change. And what operations are necessary. Um, somewhat similar to a manufacturing type routing, but it's what operations that are necessary in this work definition. You could have one operation. You could have 100 operations. It really depends on what makes sense for your maintenance techs to do. So in this particular case, we have two operations of changing the oil and disposing of the oil. And you notice over here that this is a count point, that this is an operation that we need to report to, where this operation is automatically transacting. So we know what the standard time is to change the oil and how much material, how many quarts of oil or whatever you need. So we can automatically transact those. And then to build the work definition, it's a very graphical type thing. You have these two operations defined, then you can drag and drop your items, such as your oil, drag that over to operation 10 for the oil change. And then you can also specify what the quantity is, where it's being supplied from. And in this case, it's an operation pull, so it's going to be backflushed or automatically transacted to that. Then you can also add labor or resources to this operation, whatever the type of resources are that you need. In this particular case, we're adding a maintenance resource, and that's really all there is to creating a work definition. Then creating work orders from that is pretty simple. You can go in to directly create a work order, or there is a function of a work request. If someone wants to, much like a purchase requisition to a PO, you can have a work request that may get approved or reviewed, and then a work order is created from that. So from a work order, you can specify what work definition you're going to use, what type of work order it is, and so forth, and save that. So then you've got the work order there, and you can create work orders, particularly planned work orders. You can create them ahead of time to a plan. We'll touch on that later in the preventive maintenance, and then release it. Once it's released, then it's available to for the technician to do work on. Okay, and there's just a confirmation back that the work orders were released. And what you'll see here then back on the landing page, that there was one work order scheduled this week. Now, obviously, in the real world, there'd be a lot more data in this than in the demo system. But that is the flow of creating an asset, defining what the asset is, what parts are associated with the asset, and what work definition, and how you can easily create a work order for that. Having covered that, then let's look at it from the technician standpoint, from work execution. So we'll look at the task lists and how to complete and communicate the issues with others, and close work orders, review costing. I'll step through this pretty quickly. Again, you've got the landing page. Drill into what work order you want to work on from the dispatch list. And you can see here, this can be all work orders. It can be filtered to just a particular work center or whatever you want to narrow this list down to. And you have two options with a work order. You can do a quick complete, as I pointed out earlier with the automatic transaction, where you essentially you're backflushing material and auto charging labor. You can do a quick complete, which essentially is a two click. You click on the work order, click quick complete, and you're done. Or you can complete with details if there's more activity that needs to be done. So if you've done the quick complete, you get a message back that this has been changed from ready to complete. Then if you go to if you go to complete with details, you'll drill into going through a little train stop up here of what asset and what do you need to do, and then you go to next, and what materials you need to work on this. You can backflush the materials, which is essentially auto issuing, auto charging, based on your standard parts list. And you have the ability to add a part. So if you have a standard parts list, but for example, on this particular work order, you need to add an additional part. So you can simply do that by entering that component here. And in this case, now we have two components on this. So the next stop is to transact resources. Here we have one resource of a maintenance technician. It's an auto transact, and the time to charge is 1.5, and we save and close. So that's the full completion activity. And every client we work with, the amount of activity in this area varies based on the type of work orders and assets and stuff they're working with. We also have a social component here to communicate issues. So if there are any issues with a work order or any activity, you can track that with some text, and add a picture or anything with that. So you keep all those notes and attachments and everything right with that particular work order, so it doesn't get lost in an email thread someplace. Okay. And then you've got your transaction history. You can go in and look at all the transactions, select a group of them that you want to close. Close is different than complete, where complete says I'm done with it, and close says that's been reviewed and it looks correct, and we're going to close them, so no further transactions can be done with them. And then that will move it over to costs, and then you can view the cost of the work order, what your total costs are, your material resources, and the distributions, how it's been done to the ledger. And you can drill down into the hierarchy of where all those costs came from. Okay, so that's the work execution part. Another thing that you can do with Maintenance Cloud is this I took from a different demo instance, is quality inspections. In some cases, it may be necessary to simply do an inspection and check things like calibration or something, as opposed to doing an actual repair type work order. So in this particular case, you can have inspection plans that are defined, and within the inspection plan, you can define specifications, what characteristics are with this. Does it require 100% inspection? Is there an inspection plan? Maybe every 10th one or something you inspect. And you can specify, targets, minimum, maximum values of each of the characteristics. And then when you report, if something is out of spec, it's flagged, and you create a quality issue from that. Now, one of the resolutions of a quality issue could be that a corrective work order is then generated, depending on how we would set up the rules. So you have the tracking of then the non-conformance issues and what the information was and so forth. So that's another way of working with within the whole realm of maintenance, is to have actual inspection work orders. One company I worked with recently is a utility company with for transmission. Their substations that they have, they actually have a regulatory requirement to have different components of a substation between the relays and stuff that are inspected on specific intervals. Some of them are quarterly, some of them are annually, and they have to maintain that history. So you can do that with the inspection capability. And obviously, if they needed to replace a relay or something that was a problem, a work order is created to do that. Then, kind of moving up the ladder to preventive maintenance, you define maintenance programs, and they can be calendar or meter based. You assign work requirements using the work definitions to that program, much like we've talked about before. What you can do from the maintenance program is you can generate a forecast for planning purposes. So if you have programs that are, say, calendar based, that you do weekly or monthly, whatever the schedule is, you can generate a forecast for those so you can plan your resources a little better. And from your maintenance program, you can generate work orders directly from that. You don't have to go in and manually create the work orders. So you look at a preventive maintenance program, for example, it will track what it is, the start date, is there attachments to it, give you a little synopsis here of the last update and what work orders are out there. And then you can see over here, you can see calendar and Gantt views, so forth. I'll just step through that. This schedule pattern here is for this one on this HVAC is the first of the month. You can define different schedule patterns that make sense in your business. And what you can look at a Gantt chart of that, with this icon. You can look at a calendar view with this icon, depending on what people want to look at. So, these are the actions I was talking about over here. You can generate a forecast or generate work orders. And when you generate work orders, you can specify, for example, if you're on a weekly plan, you may want to generate work orders out 4 weeks out. So they're on the dispatch list for people to see. The other thing you can do is when you, other details that are available, picked up a different plan here, that when you define assets, I didn't touch on this earlier, you can define an asset hierarchy. So for example, I've got this robot system here that has affected assets. It shows that there's a hierarchy. You can also see the details. So it will tell you, is this a calendar pattern, a meter interval, pattern? Is it a condition event? You know, if a specific event occurs, that you would create a work order. And what that asset hierarchy looks like in this particular case with this robot system, there's actually 7 specific assets in that you can generate work orders for all 7 of those at one time is doing the maintenance program for the robot system. Because you may assign different techs to work on those different assets, you know, at the same time, depending on your scheduling and your resource capacity and so forth. Then moving into the next level is getting into predictive. Predictive, you know, has kind of a couple different flavors. One, we look at IoT applications for asset monitoring. Oracle has a full tool set for IoT, Internet of Things, and there are a few predefined applications. From a maintenance standpoint, the key one is asset monitoring. This is back to what I mentioned at the top end of smart assets that, you know, can interact with an IoT application. You know, and whether it's an RFID reader or it's a, you know, some type of technical port, or, you know, are they connected online, and so forth. So you can look at all of this and define rules on what IoT is doing. So you can do maintenance based on the actual usage. You know, it can be based on runtime hours. You know, like we were talking about meter-based plans. This takes that to another level. That could be based on, you know, runtime hours from that. It could be based on something is out of calibration. Another example, a company I worked with of 3D printing, when the unit is outside of a certain temperature band, it requires recalibration and a work order creation from that. So there's a lot of different conditions that you can define that can cause things of a work order creation, or simply an inspection requirement to do that. So that's really getting to the next level from your corrective and preventative maintenance, getting into more of the predictive activity. And then you can take that a step further with the artificial intelligence, you know, the machine learning capabilities that are kind of the next layer over IoT, where you're looking at trends for statistical trends and pattern detection, you know, auto detect deviation and develop recommendations or predictions from that. Okay. So, you know, Oracle's really driving to having a future-ready predictive maintenance architecture that people can evolve as they're ready in their organization to get to this, from getting machine data from IoT and diagnostics, and, you know, with the full supply chain capabilities, you know, from maintenance to everything else in the supply chain, to you know, getting some insights and predictions, the supply chain analytics. We didn't really go into that in great detail, but there's you know, a number of analytics that are provided. You saw some of the KPIs in the landing pages, and there are more that are delivered with the system. But so that is a overview of the Oracle maintenance system. and we'll open it up to any questions at this point.
Okay, thanks, Val. So just a quick reminder, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A section of the little Zoom panel. It's probably usually on the bottom side, but it might be on the top, might be on the right, don't know. Or use the chat window, that's fine too. And we'll jump into the first couple questions that we have here. So the first question is, can this integrate with SAP?
Yes.
Okay, great. We don't need to expand on that or anything.
Yeah, it's a technical solution as far as what the SAP side of the house would want to have, and what information they need back for, as far as a preventative maintenance schedule, maybe back to manufacturing, so they can factor that into their schedule. It's not a one size fits all type answer, but it certainly can be done.
Okay, great. The next question is, have you done any live interaction or data migration with JD Edwards?
Not with maintenance. We have with other cloud applications, but we haven't with maintenance yet.
Okay. And have you had any customers that have installed asset monitoring?
No, we have one in progress now that should be live in 2 or 3 months.
Oh, great. Can this be integrated with an existing in-house maintenance management system? Or we can follow up.
I'm tempted to say yes, but I probably should qualify that and say probably, not knowing what type of maintenance system is in play and how we would interact with it. I'm sure, it's really a data mapping, and we're in the process, the different parts would work together.
Okay. How do you differentiate fixed asset and maintenance assets?
Well, they can be one and the same. Typically what we see is our clients have a larger fixed asset base from financial accounting and depreciation and so forth than they do the maintenance asset base, but they certainly can be one and the same. And that's really a business decision if you want those linked.
And then who are some of the competitors in this space? And I'm assuming this comes as a competitor to Oracle versus Infinity. But type in the panel if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what it is.
Well, on the cloud side, we haven't really seen any enterprise competitors. There are some some smaller kind of point solution competitors. I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but from an enterprise standpoint, we really don't see any other competitors.
Okay, and can you give an idea of what's the average implementation time?
For a medium-sized company, it's probably 5 to 6 months. It varies widely depending on number of locations, the number of assets, and so forth.
Great. Okay,
Now,
and
if I could,
go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I wanted to expand a little bit to Bud's question about the competitors. So around there are a couple of competitors in the on-prem world. I mean, there's other software vendors that have maintenance applications. Maximo is is one such vendor. SAP has their own maintenance program. JD Edwards has its own maintenance application. But if we're comparing against a competitor like Maximo, the difference that Oracle brings is that we've got the full suite of the financials, the procurement, the inventory. We're surrounded the HCM. We're surrounded by the full suite of capabilities versus it being a dedicated, just a maintenance type of application. So I think that the suite message applies. The Oracle suite message applies definitely in that space. And then regarding the IoT competition, there's lots of competition in the IoT space, but most of the competition it comes in the form of vendors offering a platform rather than a dedicated application. So whereas Oracle's differentiator is the fact that they go to market with an application like asset monitoring that's already built and ready for the customer. It's basically a turnkey solution versus the competition just has a platform and they let you build whatever application you want on top of that. So kind of a multifaceted answer to a question, but just wanted to expand on that a little bit further.
Right. As I mentioned at the top end, Oracle Maintenance Cloud has been written specifically to optimize cloud. It's not, a legacy application that's been ported over from an on-prem days.
Okay, great. So I don't see any other questions right now. Oh, wait, I lied. But after I ask this question, also Lee, Jonathan, I'll let you guys have any parting words after we get through the Q&A. But real quick, Val, is the functionality available to receive meter updates via telemetrics and automatically generate PM work orders?
Well, the short answer is yes. I mean, the automatically generating those would be what we talked about, the work order generation from the program. And if it's a meter-based program, you can certainly bring in the meter readings. That's pretty typical.
Okay, and before we close this out, Lee, Jonathan, do either of you have anything you want to highlight before we close this out? Like I said, we're going to email this to everybody, but I just want to make sure you guys can jump in.
Yeah, no, this is Lee. I just want to thank everybody for attending this morning. We didn't really talk about who Infovity is. We're an exclusive Oracle implementation partner. And this is one of our primary areas of expertise, maintenance. Someone did ask about fixed assets, which is just another module. And the fixed assets system is a part of the cloud suite, just as the maintenance module is a part of the cloud suite. So today we were focusing obviously on maintenance. So we do have a lot of other webinars that we're running, and look forward to you guys attending in our other sessions as well. Jonathan, did you want to add anything before we hang up?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, when we take a look at the Oracle's customer base or the customer base that we like to target, most customers are doing some sort of maintenance. And so it spans across all different industries. Every customer has doing some sort of maintenance on their assets. And so this module is applicable to most customers. So if they don't already have it, enabled, then we'd like to have conversations with them about that. Yep. And thank you all for attending.
Great.
Yes.
So as you can see, if you have any other questions, you have Val and I's email address here. So reach out. We'll follow up with an email with this webinar recording so you can address it or review it again, share it with anybody, or just set a call up with us and we will walk through it again. So thank you for your time and have a great day. Bye, everybody.